Welcome back to the Teacher channel. Please don't forget to subscribe so that you are notified of new content. Today we will give a brief overview of the lesson plan components. So you walk into the doctor's office, you exchange pleasantries, and before you say anything else, the doctor hands you a prescription. They indicate that the pharmaceutical companies have determined what is wrong with most people and have given them a supply of drugs that will address various ailments. They also provided a schedule of when to prescribe the medications. Regardless of your present ailment, the only help they can offer today is the designated prescription. Unsettling to say the least, right? A similar scenario is happening in schools as well. So in order to understand how to alter this process and determine the proper dosages, an educator must be clear about the basics of the prescription, the lesson plan, they are providing. So what does a solid lesson plan look like? What does it contain? Let's jump right into it. So let's get right into the lesson planning overview. This is just going to touch base on the various components of the lesson plan. And the reason for this is because we want to provide a solid foundation for what it is that we're doing and have a clear understanding of the components that are present in a lesson plan. Each one of these components will be further analyzed and gone into detail in a subsequent video, but we just want to give the overview to begin with. So when to plan? So ideally, we would love to take the summer, those couple of days at the beginning of the year where we get to plan for our lessons. We know what we're teaching. That is the ideal time to plan at least 2 to 3 months worth of lessons. Why? Because that way, during the school year, you get the opportunity to manipulate it to the specific needs of your students versus trying to come in every day and create a lesson plan for that one day. It's tedious and it's monotonous and it's not effective. You find yourself getting behind and not having enough time simply because, especially in the public school sector, your planning time can be eviscerated in a blink of an eye. With other details, there may be a teacher out, there may be a meeting you're called to. So the more you can do ahead of time is better. At least 3 hours at the beginning of the week, whether it's Sunday night or Monday afternoon after school is over, to make sure that everything is laid out for that week. So during the week, during your planning times, the time that you do get, you can just adjust to fit the specific needs of your students. So let's get into the actual components. The basic format: you have a set of standards, you have an objective, you have a warm-up, instructional activities, which include whole group, guided practice, independent practice, assessment, and then closure. Do not worry if you don't get all of this in this video. We're just covering the basis. It's an overview. We're not going to go into much detail, and that's okay. So first, the standards. The standards are determined by either Common Core at the national level, the state level, the county level, the district level, or a hybrid of any one of those combinations. Some states didn't take on Common Core, so they have their own list of standards, and the individual educational agencies have adapted them to fit the specific needs of their students. You have an objective. What's the standard you're going to address, and what's going to be the end product? You have a warm-up and introductory activity. Something real quick that either assesses prior knowledge for the students, gets them engaged, gets them thinking about the topic that you're going to cover. Should be no more than 5 minutes. Then you get into the instructional activities. You have your whole group. You're addressing the class as a whole. Guided practice. You are walking them through the process of completing the end product. You're showing them how to go about completing the end product. Then the independent practice. You're allowing students to produce the end product on their own. Now, sometimes that's done in groups, and that's okay. but it's an independent practice of what it is, the end product goal that you've introduced to them. Then you have an assessment. You're going to assess their mastery of the information that you addressed in your objective. So the standard, what is their mastery level of the standard? It is not expected that they master the lesson or the standard the first time. That's not the purpose of this. It's to find out where you might need to correctively instruct. Maybe you need to add more information. Maybe their prior knowledge wasn't as vast as you thought it was. Maybe it was more than you thought it was. And so you can adjust your lesson based on this assessment. Last but not least, you have closure. You're going to revisit the objective and you're going to figure out, did you get to the objective? Did you complete the objective? This is an informal assessment and it can provide some information for future planning as well. That's all the topics in a nutshell. Those are all the components. And like I said, we'll go into detail about each specific one in subsequent videos. This is just the overview. I will go into detail for each component. Our next video will examine standards in detail. Please don't forget to subscribe so you get notified when it drops. Feel free to leave your questions and comments below.